Hello, everybody's welcome. My name's Olga Atamanova, and we've invited you today to present you an educational project prepared by the Media Center Ukraine and the Ukrainian Institute of the National Memory. I would like to introduce to you our speakers. We're having Chepurenko, Deputy Minister of Culture and Informational Policy, Anton Drobovych, head of the Ukrainian Institute of National Memory, Volodymyr Tylishchak, deputy head of the Ukrainian Institute of National Memory, and Svitlana Chepurenko, communication manager at the Media Center Ukraine. And we have Maryna Ponomarenko, the producer of the project. You all know that with the start of the full-scale invasion, foreign interest in our country has increased significantly. A large number of Western journalists, media people came to Ukraine to cover the war, but experience has shown that often people, including international media, lack knowledge about the cultural and social, historical context of the war, and it was largely affected by Russian propaganda, including outside of Ukraine. So we're here to debunk the myths and tell people the truth about Russianism. I'm giving the floor to Svitlana, the person behind the project. Tell me more about it. What is the format and what are your first products? Hello, everyone. Media Center Ukraine started working since the first days of the full-scale invasion. We became the first contact point for international journalists. We gave them news, stories, helped them find contacts, and told them how to get accreditation and other things. Then we expanded our activities. We started working with fixes, and one of the areas we focused on was half promo, half product-oriented activity that provides people with social and historical context. We did it in a focused way because lots of people, including international media, knew very little about Ukraine, and whatever they knew was based on the propaganda disseminated by Russia over decades, and the ideas about Ukraine was pretty much distorted, or they haven't had any ideas about our country at all. So we decided to help international media to understand the context because it affects their material that they produce. We want them to have the true unbiased opinion about Ukraine, not affected by Russia. And our project was pretty much ambitious. It was about to debunk the myths and explain to people what Russism is, because it's fascism of the 21st century. We really appreciate Taras Shevchenko's efforts. We decided to engage his competencies that we lacked to strengthen our communicational expertise in production. We knew how to communicate with the international audience. We knew that they wanted a very simple product, like a 2-minute video that would explain certain things about Ukraine's history and Russia. So we needed that historical expertise. So we started working together, and we came up with 2 series of videos. The first one is about debunking of historical myths about Ukraine, and it includes 12 videos. And it's about our way towards independence. It debunks myths about Ukrainian insurgents' army and myths about so-called brotherly nations. And it talks about the history of Cossacks, and we decided to cover lots of things in these videos. So we can watch the first video about that. It's about the war. It didn't start yesterday or last year or a couple of years ago. It's going for a pretty long time.
В межах однієї держави протистоянню українців і росіян щонайменше одне століття. Все почалося наприкінці Першої світової війни. Тоді національні рухи скрізь по Європі почали будувати власні держави. Серед цих рухів були і українці. 1917 став роком сплеску українського руху. Він призвів до створення і проголошення незалежності Української Народної Республіки та об'єднання у єдину державу українських земель, які до того були розділені російсько-австрійським кордоном. Проте на початку 1920-х років більшість України окупували більшовики. Більшовицькі лідери сформували СРСР та проголосили створення маріонеткової Української Соціалістичної Радянської Республіки. Окупанти принесли українцям геноцид голодом, червоний терор, знищення еліт, масові депортації та ув'язнення у таборах. Але це не зупинило українців у боротьбі за свої права і власну державу. За незалежну Україну воювала Українська повстанська армія, а права українців у мирний спосіб відстоювала правозахисна Українська Гельсінська група та інші дисиденти. 24 серпня 1991 року Україна відновила свою незалежність. Проте марення Росії про імперію та повернення України не зникли. Військовій агресії Москви проти України передувало десятиліття провокацій та економічних воєн. Спочатку українці відстояли демократію під час Помаранчевої революції, а під час Революції Гідності – європейський вектор руху. У 2014 році, після падіння режиму Януковича, Кремль розпочав проти України гібридну військову агресію. Її першим етапом стала тимчасова окупація Криму та дестабілізація ситуації у південних та східних областях України. Російсько-українська війна на сході України тривала 8 років, проте Путін не зміг підкорити Україну і повернути її у сферу свого впливу. 24 лютого 2022 року Росія зважилася на широкомасштабне вторгнення в Україну. Лише тоді світ побачив, яку загрозу становить Росія для міжнародного порядку, установленого з часів Другої світової війни.
Я хочу окремо подякувати Антону.
I would like to express my appreciation to Anton, who defends Ukraine, not only on the historical and scientific front line. He defends Ukraine with weapons in his hands, and he spent several days. He was back from the front line, and to produce that video, and then he went back again. The second series of videos about Russianism, the concept of Russian. It consists of 10 videos. The first video is about what Russianism is. The rest of them will cover different aspects of Russianism. Why it's important? Because the 2nd of May 2023, Ukraine officially recognized that Russianism is a state ideology of Russia, and we wanted this to be accepted on the national level. And I think these videos will explain what Russianism is bringing to the world.
Can one comprehend the brutality with which the Russians are destroying Ukraine? What should one call the phenomenon that manifested itself in the massacre of Bucha, in the graveyard city of Mariupol, of the mass burials of Izium? The word Russianism is the most precise name for the present-day Kremlin ideology. This neologism was coined as a combination of the words Russia and fascism. It is a quasi-ideology which took shape in Russia as a reaction to the collapse of the Russian Empire and the USSR. Russianism, just like any other authoritarian ideology, is full of internal contradictions. Its characteristic features include distorted interpretations of religious values, instrumentalization of history and culture, the idea of a special mission of the Russian nation, imperial nostalgia, revanchism, a cult of the leader, xenophobia, and the intolerance of otherness. All that is actualized in aggressive propaganda and leads to crimes against humanity. Russianism camouflages itself to be perceived as an expression of orthodox spirituality, of the grandeur of Russian culture. Some time ago, the free world condoned a bloody onslaught of Russianism. It was not stopped when Russians were committing war crimes in Moldova, Georgia, Chechnya, and Syria. But now, the humankind must open its eyes and help Ukrainians stop the spread of Russianism. Because this is not just a threat for Ukraine, it is a threat for the entire world.
All of the videos can be watched online in social media, on our website, on the Media Center Ukraine and the Institute of National Memory. So please share them, and we hope that it's going to be a part of our struggle against Russianism, part of our struggle for freedom. We believe that the truth will prevail. Well, actually, the first question is how important these projects are, how the international community ready to know truth about Ukrainian history and talk about Russianism. Thank you. Thanks a lot to everyone who created these videos and who's been working on debunking the myths and letting the truth about Ukrainian history shine. We really value the cooperation between NGOs, governmental structures, international organizations, and I'm sure that this synergy will help us achieve success. In debunking myths and communicating the Ukrainian stance, I think people's ideas about Ukraine has changed, and Ukrainians' mindset has changed. There were many changes for the Western audience, and especially the topic of Russian narratives. They now are part of what's been taught in European and Western universities. So this project is quite important and timely, and it's also important in the context of Russianisms today, and the context of historical aspect, getting back to the history of Kievan Rus, and Russia has built its own narrative that it's the same environment, Spain, claiming that what happened in Kiev back in the days is part of Russian history. So, but it's impossible to describe people of ancient Novgorod as Russians, but it's in the textbooks. Even Encyclopedia Britannica, well-known encyclopedia, presents history written by Nestor. They call it Russian Chronicle. They provide other alternative names, but the title of the article is called Russian Chronicle. So this narrative of calling everything that happened within these territories Russia is something that we need to struggle against. I think the first time I visited the British Museum in 2001, and there were artifacts from the 3rd or 5th century, and the description was it was from South Russia. So in the context of museum and art, and also history taught in universities by professionals, we have a lot of work to do. And Snyder, Plochy, they're doing a very good job communicating to a wider audience. It's all combined efforts to debunk Russian myths, fight Russian narratives with our information, with our material. So thanks a lot for that. Thank you, Anton. Well, the question is to you. I would like to subscribe to what Svitlana said. I would like to express my gratitude to you. Thank you for defending Ukraine. Thank you for these projects. We've seen that you are one of the speakers in these series of videos. Why it's important for you? Why did you join the project? Well, I need to provide a short background. The Ukrainian Institute of National Memory is the only one in Ukraine, maybe even in the world, where it's written in our statute that we have to fight the historical myths, because the word myth is not normally used in documents like that. I taught mythology in the university, and I was a bit surprised that there is an institution that works with myths, and I was quite lucky. We are quite lucky when because we are living in the world where people are based on myths in decision making, and it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting phenomenon. They study it in Oxford. It's related to post-truth, with populism, with propaganda. And it happened that in Ukraine we have this mandate, and there is a historical context, just like Taras said, and we've been living in the shadow of the Russian Empire. It was a huge, powerful empire, now it's dead. But this body bothers Russia very much, and they've been poisoning cultural environments and historical space of other nations like Belarusians, Caucasian nations, Chechens, Poles, Baltic nations, has suffered a lot from this empire. And it left blank spaces in people's memory, and it's filling it with myths and propaganda, and we have a lot of work to do. By the way, it explains the existence of institutes like ours, archives, museums all over Europe. So institutes like that are located all over the world. So this is what we need to do, and it's evident that even being on the front line, I'm getting back to your question, I couldn't help but feeling responsible for that institute. Like Taras is responsible for this informational component. Well, it's a question whether this so-called informational front line exists, but it's definitely relevant in our work, and he created a product because this product fights propaganda. So there's a war going on. There's a real war on the front line, and there's an informational war. And there's a war going on, war for freedom, for the right to be yourself. So that's my question. That's my answer to you. It was a pretty hard thing to organize, but thank you for your flexibility, for your patience. Actually, we have good professionals in our structures that conduct scientific work. And my colleagues were ready to produce the second part of the video when I joined the army. So I'm really thankful to the colleagues, and I just wanted to highlight other people's work. There are lots of people who are concerned, like it's been a long time and nobody did anything. Russians are spreading their propaganda. Let's debunk it. But it's a road to nowhere. There's no point in commenting Russian narratives. So yes, we took topics that were affected by Russians, but we created a product that provides a very specific agenda. We are orienting at historical truth. Of course, it's impossible to cover everything in a 5-minute video. You can't talk about all problems for Ukrainian insurgents during Second World War and after Second World War. So, but we came up with our product, not just a reply to a Russian product, but as a separate thing that, as a series of videos that any person can watch and contemplate on. Yes, of course you can sigh and be concerned and criticize, but if you don't create a specific product, it will always be an ongoing dialogue or comment of the weakest. We don't have the right for that. We can only come up with initiative. On the front line, we need strategic victories and high-quality products in this informational war for freedom, for truth. Let's not forget that Russia couldn't find an actual excuse for that war. So they came up with fake excuses, and they believed their lies since Catherine the Great. And they just decided to use it as an excuse. So historical truth is a very big part of that war. Thanks a lot for that project. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Volodymyr, our communication team, and scientists that did a good job packing this huge amount of information in the form of this product. So they covered a lot, but at the same they make it concise and easy to view. Hopefully the community will appreciate our efforts. Of course, we are open to for criticism, but if you criticize, please do something yourself. We are ready to inspire you. Thank you. Volodymyr, let's talk about the story behind it, the script. How did you create the videos? How did you select topics for these videos? Hello, thank you for your question. That's true. This is a multiple months efforts, and both Victoria's and our colleagues from the media center, we really have been working for a couple of months on that, but we didn't do it from scratch. Actually, majority of these materials that the videos are based upon were created by us previously. The series about Russianism was our joint idea with the media center. Last year, we've created an exhibition called Russianism Is. This exhibition is on tour in Ukraine. So last time it visited Vinnytsia, now it's in Odessa. So this series about Russianism is based on this exhibition. So these materials that we've created previously, we've breathed a new life into them, and we decided to cover such a horrible concept of Russianism, and we decided to do it in a better way, and we appreciate our colleagues' efforts. And speaking about myths, well, we selected topics together based on most relevant things. Of course, these 12 videos, they don't cover everything. They don't cover all of the myths we should talk about. Myths that Russia speculate about spreading their imperialistic propaganda. But these are videos, topics that people talk a lot about. People can relate in the story, a history of Crimea, history of Cossacks, and Kievan Rus heritage, and others. A lot of topics were created previously. and they were updated, but this is a totally new product. And a good product, and a lot of efforts were invested. I appreciate my colleagues' efforts, and thanks to our partnership with Media Center, we had products that can be interesting for Ukraine and outside. Thank you, Volodymyr. Maryna, the question is to you. We understand that all scientific products are very complicated things that are very hard to communicate. How did you do that? Well, on behalf of our creative team, I would like to say that we enjoyed working with these products because these products are very much demanded in Ukraine. The way we worked with them, these are different products by format and style. First, I will talk about debunking myths. It was Anton's project. It was created in the form of a video blog, so the concept was very simple. We designed the visual style, and we found some materials that would tell a story, like maps, visual aids, and we added some subtitles. Our team, our team members, some of them are in this room. Yelizaveta Pavlova was behind the script, and Yakщо created the visual style. Fomenko was the cameraman, and Alexander Olinik was the editor. And so thanks for that, guys. Then the second series of products were videos about Russism. And it was interesting to work with them because Russism is a new concept, and we don't have many products that would be focused on the international audience, because there is no recognizable video style or images that illustrate this concept. So that was a bit of terra incognita for us, and we tried to create our own vision and tried to provide a better picture. And we started with thinking about what would be the right mood for it, like gloomy, mood that Russia is associated with. So this is why we decided the soundtrack and the colors and the style. We didn't want to create literary illustration for our narratives. We wanted to find artistic images that could tell the story. So it's largely a unique product by our video designer, Dmitro Lobko. He's here today, and he created these videos in the form of collage. He likes it very much, and he works with this technique, and I would like to quote him. So he said, "Macabricity of Russian senses crystallized the design of these videos." So I really like the way he put it. Besides, Yelizaveta Pavlova worked on this video as a storyteller, and Evgeny Yankovsky helped us as a designer. He designed the visual style, so that's how we did it. Thank you very much to the whole team that worked with these videos, and I hope that this product will find a larger audience, because this is a very important topic for us. Dear colleagues, I would like to engage you in the conversation. If you have comments or questions, please. Hello, Ukrinform, Natalia Molchanova. I have a question to Taras Shevchenko. do you already know how you're going to promote these videos? Because the way I see it, they're focused on the Western audience. How are we going to promote it, and what platforms? And another question, maybe it's up for a discussion, maybe Anton can answer it. Do you know how you're going to work with Western museums, the Western universities, academic audience? Because you mentioned that many Ukrainian artifacts are marked as Russian. There are many Russian narratives, and they're part of the Western educational curriculum. So are you planning to engage Ukrainian academic community? Thank you for your question. Well, the product was created by the Media Center and the Institute of the National Memory. Maybe they will provide more comments on that. But the ministry is going to support promotion. And of course, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have a unit that works with foreign communications. As far as the second question is concerned, we have lots of public initiatives in terms of communicating with museums, and not just museums. Lots of Ukrainians went abroad after the full-scale invasion, and they visited different museums, and they created these teams of influence. And I mentioned my visit to a British museum, and when I was in the British Galleria, I noticed a picture by Degas. Now it's renamed Ukrainian dances because they had yellow and blue colors, and they definitely don't look like Russians. So a lot of pieces of art were already renamed. I'm not sure whether they recall that information, but I know that there were cases when many titles were renamed. So speaking about promotion, we will publish some of the videos on the Institute of National Memory's website. Also, we will be supported by the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but when both series will be out, the one about the myth debunking and Russianism, we would like to create a playlist and propose it to different educational platforms in Ukraine and beyond. We think that it will be interesting products for foreigners, and so we'll see how it goes. Thank you. And well, traditionally our algorithm in the Institute is such that we're using all of the resources, media resources that are quite developed compared to the official governmental resources. So we advised to all of diplomatic missions and foreign communities to promote these videos. But why we are talking at this conference about it, we want to expand our audience. And so I'm asking you to please share these videos. If you know people who are wondering, who want to know more about the history of Ukraine, you can just send the link to them. As far as the second question is concerned, how do you disseminate truth in Western communities and universities? Well, it's not really the Ministry of Culture's job and the Institute of National Memory's job. I can say that there is only one way here. Ukrainian scholars that speak English need to visit different international platforms, and they need to speak about it. There are conferences related to rethinking of post-colonial heritage. They need to write articles and publish them in the best magazines all around the world, not just sitting on your sofa and waiting for someone to write something in English language. That's the only way. So the state need to help people promote it. They need to create different platforms of communication, and this is a great task for the Ministry of Education and the Academy of Sciences, but there is no other way than coming out of your bubble in your universities, in your academic institutions. Many scholars are comfortable sitting in their golden bubble and talking about different historical aspects without publishing anything in the English language. If we are talking about engaging people from outside, you have to do something, not wait until someone comes and invites you. That's hard work. And it takes 20 years for a scholar to be trained and educated. That's a great investment and great responsibility. It's not going to be easy. Taras Shevchenko is not going to issue an order, do this and do that. This is what Ukrainian scholars need to do. That's not the way it works. That's personal responsibility of scholars, and I'm talking about personal responsibility. Maybe as a society, we'll be able to ask them, how many scholars did you send to the conference? How many archive missions did you fund in Poland and other countries? And we can ask questions to the Ministry of Education. I'm not criticizing, because we can be criticized too. It's about direction. That's the way I see it. Thank you very much, Anton. Chris.
Media. As someone who studies disinformation, history is one of the major areas that they stump the West in offering support for Ukraine. So this is a very, very important thing to get right. My question to you is, do you have a way of assessing the atmospherics of this effort, a way of determining the success, especially for foreign audience, where the effort put out is retrieving some clarity or understanding from the Western audience or American audience? Дякую.
Хто візьметься?
Давайте я почну.
Well, I can start. I think the most important efficient index for our communications and campaigns is the level of support to Ukraine, the ability to give weapons and other types of support. I think this is the best result. Of course, it doesn't just consist of information campaigns. It consists of different factors. It's about what the government and the president does, and that's what is published in Ukraine and beyond. And we've been discussing with Western journalists about the way they're going to film hostilities. But so far, this is the best way to assess our work, the level of support to Ukraine. Well, speaking about the technical part of your question, about assessment, well, we have subscribers, we have views, the number of views for our videos. We have a series about the Second World War, the war and the myth. We can see how many foreign views we have, how many comments we have from outside of Ukraine. Another index is mentioning of Ukrainian projects. Some people view these videos, and we can do a media analysis next year and trying to determine how many mentions we got in the context of this project. We can measure the tone of these mentions. We can measure how many discussions they had. So it's going to be a good technical measurement, but it will sooner or later get down to how many people really support us, because it's very relevant for many people in Europe that faced Russian imperialism. Unfortunately, Europe also has problems with post-colonial status of some countries, and nobody is concealing that problem. Europe didn't discuss Russian imperialism. They thought that was none of their business. They were engaged in their own imperialism. So this is a new thing to do. For many decades, unfortunately, we didn't pay enough attention to that too. Thank you. Dear colleagues, do we have any questions? No questions. Thank you very much for being interested in the topic. Thank you very much for your synergy. And thanks to that synergy, we have products like that. Thank you. Our next briefing will start at 12:30. Stay with us. Let's work for our victory. Thanks to our armed forces. Glory to Ukraine.